Hey, we're back. It's Sunday. Sorry, I forgot to mention last show that we were doing our picks on Saturday. So if you haven't seen them yet, go over to our YouTube channel. That's where our picks are for the upcoming week in the NFL. It's only like a 20-minute video. It's not much. So expect this episode to be a little bit shorter because there are no NFL picks in this episode. But coming up, we will discuss a lot about the NFL last week. We're going to talk the new NFL award or NBA awards. My mistake. The NHL's latest news. We'll also talk the newest coach at Purdue, Mr. Irrelevant, and we'll have Tinkle on this. That's all coming up. But Jason, it's time for the takeaways. You're up first.
Yeah, so the NBA, which we already knew had a bunch of different awards already in place with no players' names or anything like that to them. But this year, that all changes. The NBA has announced 6 new trophies to be awarded for the key performance award winners. Starting with honoring NBA legends Wilt Chamberlain for the Rookie of the Year award. John Havlicek for the Sixth Man of the Year award, the Michael Jordan Trophy for the MVP, the George Mikan for the Most Improved Player award, the Hakeem Olajuwon Trophy for the Defensive Player of the Year, and I think this is honestly a new one. I don't think I've ever heard of this being an actual trophy presented to anybody, but this year looks like they're going to have a Clutch Player of the Year award. It's going to be called the Jerry West, who was called Mr. Clutch back in his NBA tenure. Brian, if you look at all this, I think these are some of the best players to be, named for these trophies, especially Michael Jordan for the MVP, Wilt Chamberlain for the Rookie of the Year because, his rookie season was one of the better ones. I'm pretty sure in his rookie year, he was the one that scored 100 points for the Philadelphia 76ers back in the day. Same thing with Hakeem Olajuwon with Defensive Player of the Year, but honestly, the one that I do like the most being called Jerry West for the Clutch Player of the Year award.
Yeah, I think that one's a nice touch.
It is.
Michael Jordan obviously deserves the MVP one. I mean, I would have laughed if, obviously, it wasn't going to be named the LeBron Trophy, but if it did, could you imagine the backlash for that? Because, LeBron's won as many MVPs as Jordan.
Right.
But it would be a lot of backlash. It probably still is because, the people that like LeBron think he's better than Jordan. The people that like Jordan think he's the greatest, and he very well is. But only fair that it's named after Michael.
It is. So, I'm honestly grateful that the NBA has decided to, honor all these great players with trophies named after them to give to the players this year. So it's a nice touch by the NBA. And if anybody hasn't gone to the NBA Hall of Fame, or not the NBA, Basketball Hall of Fame, it's a pretty cool place. Pretty small for what it is, but definitely worth it in Springfield, Massachusetts. So I'm going to kind of go right into my second takeaway. A familiar face is now back in Buffalo. After 3 years with the team, he is back with the Bills on the practice squad for now. Could very well soon get elevated to the 53-man roster. Ultimately, I have no idea who he would replace to be delegated to the practice squad. I would think Shakir would probably be the one that he would replace to be on the 53-man roster, but I really do think he's going to be somebody that can help the slot game for the Bills. Nothing against Isaiah McKenzie, but he's not all that great of a slot receiver for the Bills offense. And apparently Josh Allen has admitted that because of Cole Beasley not being on the team hasn't really executed a lot of plays because of him no longer being on the team. Well, now that he's back, I think that spark on offense is going to be a lot better there. And from the videos I saw, it's almost like the 33-year-old Cole Beasley hasn't lost a step. This man is just truly like a great slot receiver. And it's insane how good he is in the slot. I think that he's somebody that can definitely help the Bills out big time because he just brings a different level, a different energy, a different factor to that offense that I think the Bills have been missing all year.
I could agree. I know many people wanted Odell Beckham. Now we're not sure if he's going to play at all this year. That rumor's been going around. The Cowboys signed T.Y. Hilton this week. So I know that both teams have kind of said they're still not ruling out Odell. But you got to imagine that, the action kind of speaks louder than the words here. I think, honestly, those two teams just don't see Odell, coming off of injury as a guy who could lead them into the Super Bowl.
Right.
I don't want to talk much about T.Y. I actually thought about it just now, but as far as Cole Beasley, he fully understands that offense, which is good. Him and Josh Allen already have a chemistry together. I think definitely it helps the Bills' offense. But, him kind of being semi-retired this year, how much of that, is he going to be in that game's shape that he was in last time he was in Buffalo? I just don't see that happening. So, I don't know. I feel like it helps. I'm not going to say it hurts. Any help is good help. But, I just don't know if I'm going to get sold and say, this is the piece that gets him there.
If somebody told me that, in like a few years' time, that Buffalo would have all the receivers that like helped them for those 4 seasons, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Isaiah McKenzie, I would probably tell you, yeah, I don't see that happening. Well, it's a reality. All 5 of those players are all on one team, and it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, John Brown, yeah, he's there, but he hasn't really done much ever since getting signed to the team and getting elevated. Personally, who knows what could happen? I mean, I would like to see that offense do well. I mean, I know that they haven't, ruled out Odell, but I ultimately do think that he's going to be waiting until next year. I think he's going to be the top free agent, if anything. But again, who knows? So getting on to, still with the Buffalo Bills, heading into the third and last takeaway for myself. We were there for this game. If anybody who does want to see us attempting to put our buddy through the table, they can watch it. They can text me, do whatever they want to, or I can probably put it on social media very soon if anybody really truly wants to watch our debacle there. But again, it was good times. I mean, there was a lot of drinking. There was that, going through the table. There was the game itself, which was awesome. I mean, we were pretty close to the field. Second closest that I've been to the field. I've been a lot closer than that, but ultimately that was a great. It was a great experience. Game itself was kind of meh. I mean, Buffalo didn't score till almost damn near the end of the second quarter, but ultimately
do it on our end.
No, I mean there was only they didn't score at all.
We had the Jets touchdown, and then we had a Bills field goal.
It's funny because even when Daniel and I that one year, and when it was Josh Allen's first year, we went to the Week 17 game, where it was like 49-17 or something like that. There was no offense for the Bills over and on our side that much at all. It was all on the other side. And the funny thing is, we were sitting not tunnel side. So they scored all on the tunnel side and not on really our side at all. So, and then this year, we were in tunnel side and they score and they're scoring all on the other side. Like, damn, like we just get no luck. When we sit close, then we don't get the action really on our side at all, and it sucks. But it's all right. I mean, the Bills do get the win, 20-12. Ultimately, this was a very defensive-like game. Both offenses didn't play that well at all.
Absolutely, and I think the atmosphere was a lot more fun than the game itself. I'm not gonna lie when I say we all had a little too much to drink. But it was fun. Minus the parking at the end, but hey,
it's all right.
But getting to see Mike White up close, getting to see Josh Allen up close, I think that was a lot of fun. We were right behind the Stampede too, which was
I know. I was quite shocked.
This should have been a tinkle on this nominee as well. We actually got fans in our section to cheer JETS suck. So,
yeah.
Sorry, Jets fans, but we had a ball with that.
That was awesome. But ultimately, if there's anything about Buffalo that might help them out for the rest of the year and winning a lot of games, you know what they say, defense wins championships, and if that's what ultimately helps the Bills win a lot of these games, then I'm all for it. I mean, look at the 2015 Denver Broncos. Their offense wasn't that great, but their defense helped them win that championship that year.
I wouldn't say the Bills' offense is as bad as that, but I would say
probably not. But
they definitely needed the help. Cole Beasley will be some help, but the defense itself, I mean, they did pretty well. Obviously, the Jets have built quite a defense over there. I mean, Sauce is definitely going to be a top 5 corner in a few years.
Sauce didn't really do that game at all. I mean,
sorry, look, I mean, as a Bills fan, I know it's going to be hard to admit, but Sauce is going to be a top 5 corner.
I mean, he could very well be a Darrell Reeves 2.0.
It's already starting out that way. That's the fun part. But, time
and nobody was getting past Revis Island there.
Yeah. So, time will tell, but, man, I obviously didn't think the Jets were going to sweep them, but the Jets, they definitely proved they're not out of this. They're definitely going to be in play for one of those wild cards.
Time will tell. Time will definitely tell.
Yeah. But not much else on my end to comment on that game. It was just a good game.
It was a good game. It was a good, fun experience. But ultimately, I'm going to send it the Brand's way, and he can start off his takeaways. The Chargers and the Dolphins.
I was ready to write them off last week, and every week I'm ready to write them off, and then they come back and pull this out of their behinds. The Chargers beat the Dolphins on Sunday night, 23-17. The Chargers also moved into the number 7 seed in the AFC after that win. And Herbert looked good. He looked really good for once in that game, and of course,
I guess what happens when you have your 2 top receivers healthy.
And I didn't expect this. I mean, we both picked the Dolphins last week, if you recall.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure.
and I fully expected a Dolphins win because not just the injuries, but, just Herbert hadn't looked good all year, or hasn't looked like, the top 5 quarterback that everybody pins him as. There were comparisons to Phillip Rivers. Then he gets Keenan Allen, Mike Williams back, an early Christmas present, pulls off that win. And suddenly he's the big hero again. He's no longer the social media quarterback. Meanwhile, Tua looks like the guy who's the social media quarterback. So,
is for a team like the Dolphins, they gotta stop being so cocky right now. They really do. Just because you have Tyreek Hill doesn't mean your coach needs to troll teams. And let me tell you something. They better, if anything, they're doing a lot more talking than the Buffalo Bills are. Buffalo Bills are going to leave the talking to the field. Dolphins can troll and talk all they want, but when they get to that game, the talking is going to be done on the field. And Buffalo has gotten trolled before in the past and burned teams.
Yeah.
For instance, what about with Juju Smith-Schuster and the Pittsburgh Steelers talking all that shit, and everything like that, with everything he did, and then what happened? Buffalo burned the Steelers and shut down Juju Smith-Schuster. So I hate to say it, Buffalo has been accounted for the burning teams that troll them in the past. So,
in terms of the Chargers, though, I will say it was an impressive win.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do think that the Chargers, if they can keep this up and keep guys healthy, Brian, I honestly think that they could very well into the postseason.
I said it earlier this year. It's playoffs or bust. They're on the cusp of it, and I don't like that because I think this is a team that should have, could have, would have competed with the Chiefs had they been healthy. They should have, could have, and would have been there if it wasn't for all that. Now, Herbert still, got a lot to prove if he's going to make the money. But I think, the 5th-year option's a plan. The other reason I didn't see the Chargers pulling this one out, Derwin James was out of the game with an injury. Now, had Derwin played, I would have given the edge to the Chargers, probably. Only because Derwin James is that game changer in the secondary, okay? He may not have the speed to keep up with Tyreek. He might, he'd probably be guarding Gesicki all night. But what I would have expected is if he's deep in coverage, waiting on Tyreek, Tyreek's not getting by him. Let me just put it that way. I don't care how crafty Tyreek Hill is. There's very few wide receivers who can actually get by Derwin James. That's how strong he is. I mean, when they get the catch, they're not getting by him. So, it was a big downside to not have Derwin, but the fact that we pulled that out is impressive. Of course, we got the Titans later today. I picked the Chargers yesterday, but I just don't know. I'm still going to be cautiously optimistic. I mean, I get the Dolphins are a good team. We definitely, I got a quality win. Now it's just about keeping it rolling, and that's something we haven't done this year and we haven't done in recent years. We got to keep that momentum rolling if we're going to be that team that's going to be, in the playoffs and could potentially play Cinderella in the playoffs.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens there. But man, I got a lot of hockey news today. So this one I think is really good. Whether you watch hockey or not, you know who Alex Ovechkin is. And Alex Ovechkin on Tuesday night got quite a big milestone. He got his 800th career goal in a hat trick on Tuesday night. Of course, his 800th goal puts him 94 away from the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And after the game, Alex Ovechkin came out and trademarked the Great Chase. Okay, GR8, the GR8 Chase. Which is, of course, to, point out that he is chasing Wayne Gretzky's record for all-time goals in the NHL. So there's one thing, though, that could prevent Alex Ovechkin from reaching that milestone. And a hint, he's 37 years old. Okay. Now,
if he's still playing at a good level, he could probably, play for a few more years and then be able to possibly, break it. But it's going to be tough because he is, age is definitely playing a factor on him, and age is creeping up on him.
He did just turn 37, by the way. It's not like he's going to be 38 mid-season, but 37 still. Not that a year makes a difference in this case. See, Jaromir Jagr played for so many years, so I think Ovechkin can catch him. I'm going to be honest. We talked about earlier this year Albert Pujols chasing 700. Albert Pujols did move into, I believe, the top 5 or the top 3 in home run hitting. So I feel like, we're turning the corner where, 5-10 years ago, we would have said, well, he's 37 years old. He's going to retire soon, right? And I feel like Brady has changed the game for everybody. Exclude his divorce, but, he's kind of changed the game, across sports where now we can't really rule out the 37-year-old.
Right.
In IndyCar, we couldn't rule out the 46-year-old from winning the Indianapolis 500. It seems we've turned a corner where we look at age and we're like, he's old, it's going to be history, but we're not surprised.
Right.
So
they're just proving age is just a number at this point.
I mean, and again, credit, not just the dietitians. Of course, everyone knows my thoughts on vegan diets. Sorry if there's any vegans out there, but, sorry if there are any vegans out there. Okay, I should really stop. We're going to get in trouble, but... but there's that, exercise science. There's been so many, improvements, so many research, so much research done. So, I think he's going to get there. I really think he's going to get there. But, all right. Other news in the NHL. Now, before I say what I'm going to say, let me just add, going to the NBA, of course, I've been very vocal against the play-in tournament, and I still am. I still think, if after 82 games you can't determine who's in the playoffs of the 16 teams, you just should reevaluate how you conduct your league. And I'm sorry, I'm going to maintain that from now until this thing either comes to an end or the next stupid thing that they roll out, or just sports in general rolls out. Because, next will probably be the NFL with its, with like a play-in tournament. But the NHL is now expanding their season. And that's why I say this. So technically the NBA season is 84 games with the play-in tournament. If you're lucky, it's 83, 84 games. So now the NHL is looking to expand. It's not official yet, as I'm throwing stuff, but the NHL is thinking of expanding from 82 to 84 games. Now, this wouldn't be to, add to the playoffs. This wouldn't be to, an in-season tournament. It wouldn't be any of that. No.
This is just adding more games. Just to add 2 more games.
Yeah. So, of course, the NHL, keep in mind, has 2 more teams on the NBA. Okay. So, the NHL has 32 teams, with Vegas and with Seattle being the most recent additions to the league. So essentially you've lost 2 games against whoever, more than likely, East versus West. So the reason why the NHL is considering it is to add more regional rivalries, maybe not interdivisional, but just more regional rivalries in general during the season. So, again, the NBA has not had an expansion in years. Whereas the NHL, in the last 10, have added 2 teams. So that is why I like this a little bit better than I like, say if the NBA were to expand it. Because I feel like, when you added 2 teams, it definitely changes how the schedule's written. It definitely changes, because obviously you're not going to take those divisional games away. You're not going to take those conference games away. It's going to impact East versus West at the end of the day. So I feel like if you can do anything to get those matchups back, you should do it. And ultimately, by game 82, game 80, 81, things are already determined. So, maybe it determines a spot or 2. But what I'm getting at is what's determined is the teams that are in the playoffs. The 16 teams generally are determined by game 79 or 80. Maybe there will be some that go down to game 84, but, for the most part, you have the general idea of who's going to be in. So in terms of the playoffs, I don't think it'll have an impact, but I think definitely from the entertainment aspect, in terms of getting those games back that we lost with the 2 expansion teams, I think it's only right. I think it's the only right thing to do, unless you modify it to some wacky, like, baseball sort of schedule where you play, out of conference once or out of league every, couple years you play this team or you play that team. So,
right.
I like it. That's the verdict.
I mean, it's something innovative and creative. I mean, yeah, it adds a couple more games onto the season, but
again, I mean, in reality, if you go back, 6, 7 years or before the Vegas Golden Knights were founded, you're essentially going back to what it was before that. And even before Seattle. So, it's, like I said, I think it's making up for, the addition of those 2 teams. And I think that's what's very important to note there. And I think that's just important for the league to get those games back. Because maybe we'll see, I don't know how many times Colorado and Buffalo play or Colorado and Tampa play each other this year, but maybe that's the second game right there. where it's the rematch between the Stanley Cup. Maybe it's that matchup that could very well be the Stanley Cup that now we get twice a year, and it's not determined once and say, oh, well, so-and-so was injured or so-and-so was scratched from the lineup. So how could you judge on that? Now there's two opportunities on two different, or in two different arenas. So, you said innovative. I think, it's I think it's good compensation. I think that's the term I want to use there. Good compensation. Of course, I'm sure it's going to have to go through the PA. But, we'll see what happens. Of course, we're probably a whiles away from knowing for sure. But good to see nonetheless. But I think that's all I got for this. Let's take our break, and when we come back, we'll talk college football, some NFL news, and then we'll have Tinkle on this all coming your way right after the break here on Sunday Morning Tinkle. Well, Drew Brees is back to football, and not in the way that, well, maybe in the way that many of you thought he would be. Of course, we know the analyst thing didn't work out for him.
Right.
He is now with his alma mater. He will be the interim offensive assistant at Purdue University. Of course, Drew Brees, a former Purdue quarterback. Like I said, he tried the analyst thing. It just didn't work out for him. So I guess this is good, honestly. I think this is a good fit for him. He's got a high IQ. He could definitely make a good coach one day.
He certainly could. I think this is definitely a good start for him. They get into, coaching. I think that he has a lot that he can offer to Purdue as offensive assistant. Ultimately, he can always, really, use his NFL knowledge and terminology and stuff like that to really help out a college team. Possibly play really well. He can also pair up with the head coach too, and come up with nice offensive game plans going forward. So I think this is a good opportunity for Drew Brees to learn. And who knows? He could end up being a head coach of Purdue, and then it could lead into him getting a head coaching gig in the NFL. So it would be cool.
Hey. Maybe the Texans will fire Lovie Smith this week, and then he could be the head coach of the Houston Texans. Just saying, just throwing that one out there.
He could. I mean,
hashtag Jeff Saturday. Okay.
Hashtag worst hire ever.
Oh man, but it's a good role for him, I will admit. Another good role for somebody else, Mr. Irrelevant, I think, has become Mr. Relevant at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the last, 3 weeks for Brock Purdy have looked really good.
Yeah. Beat down a 45-year-old man who's been in the league longer than he's been alive.
He's been alive, I know. That's insane.
He beat him down. Then this week he takes down Geno Smith to win the NFC West title. So, I've meant to finish typing this question. I got so distracted. Is Mr. Irrelevant, is Brock Purdy the answer for the 49ers? Is he the right guy to be the QB1, at the moment?
Well, definitely for the rest of the year, they kind of have no choice. But, yeah, I think he's the right guy. If he can keep this going, who knows? They could have a deep playoff run.
Man, if he keeps playing like this... Now, Trey Lance is going to be the starter. We already know he's going back and he will be the starter next year when healthy.
Right.
But...
But he better worry, because if he goes down with injury again, Brock Purdy could ultimately just, help his team into the future too.
we know Brock will be the backup, but if he keeps playing like this and say Trey Lance does, unfortunately, go down with injury next year, and Purdy leads this team all the way, now it's a question of, oh man, is Brock Purdy our guy? You know, it becomes, is Brock Purdy the man? I don't want to skip that far ahead, but certainly next year he's going to be a very worthy backup to Trey Lance.
Oh, I agree. And I really do think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a sought-after free agent quarterback heading into the next season, too.
I'm telling you, the Jets, I'm calling it.
It makes a lot of sense. Robert Saleh, the San Fran connection.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one of two things. I could either see him winding up back with his former offensive coordinator in, Mike McDaniel, somehow backing up Tua or something like that, or him starting possibly on the Jets or somewhere else that needs a quarterback needy is going to be a quarterback needy team.
And the Jets are really that team that are just one quarterback away from being, they're a good quarterback away from being a team that could battle for a wild card, maybe the division, but I think that's a bit of a long shot.
Right.
But I think a good quarterback puts them in that race.
Ultimately, who knows?
But for San Fran,
I was gonna say, what about New Orleans? New Orleans could be in that discussion for Jimmy Garoppolo too. I mean,
it's going to be a good quarterback free agency regardless, because also, I'm not sure if you've heard, but since Desmond Ridder is now the quarterback for
Marcus Mariota is now
Atlanta,
basically gone from Atlanta. So.
Marcus Mariota has been holding out. So now it would appear Marcus Mariota is going to be on the market, maybe as we're talking right now. So should have brought that up this week, but two sought-after quarterbacks. Maybe Brock Purdy could be on the trade block.
I was going to say,
if he keeps playing this game.
Carolina's also going to be a team that's going to probably need a quarterback too. So they're definitely not. They're the option that could go after like a Jimmy Garoppolo as well too. So I mean, there's definitely teams that are going to try to make the push for Jimmy G. So I wouldn't shocked if the Jets.
The sad part is the Commanders will probably be in a race too for another quarterback. Even though they've got Taylor Heineke, and I think he's proven time and time again that he's the quarterback for this job. But, hey, let's keep going after Carson Wentz. No offense to Alex Smith, he was the guy for this roster, but then they go Carson Wentz, then they go Ryan Fitzpatrick. How many times is he gonna just teach him this lesson? Just saying. But
it's super sad. But
for Mr. Irrelevant, for Brock Purdy, I hope he continues it. He's definitely proving that he's, the quarterback, not necessarily for the future, but I think he's proving that San Fran's going to have a really good quarterback situation on their hands, in terms of they have two capable guys possibly next year of being that starter, being that guy.
I could see for San Fran heading into next season that if they do keep Brock Purdy, I think he'll start the season as a starter. But once Trey Lance is actually fully healthy and back and ready to actually go back out there, it wouldn't shock me if he gets the nod over Brock Purdy unless Brock Purdy, has a really good, training camp, a really good, start to the season, then it's going to be tough.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But with that, I think it's time for Tinkle on this. And I'll let you
Yeah,
do the honors.
honestly, you know, you usually go to, you know, sporting events, and usually the wave is, one of the top things that happen. These fans must have been bored when their team was up so big, celebrating in any way, shape, or form. But you never usually see the players doing the wave with, the fans. And just so happens that the Grizzlies bench, while the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks were taking free throws with a little over 5 minutes left and up over 50 points at this point. I never would have thought the bench would be doing the wave with the fans. And it kind of seemed like, I don't know if you could take it as they were trolling or just having a good time, but it kind of seems like a big troll to the Bucks. Like, hey, we're out big. Let's just,
We don't need
go
to
out.
focus anymore.
We need to focus. We can have some fun with our fans who are enjoying themselves and kind of bored because this game is well then over at this point. They did ultimately win over 40 points. They won by 41. It was like 142 to 101, which I never would have thought that the Grizzlies would have beaten the Bucks that badly. I would think maybe, if anything, the other way around, but hey. But tinkle on this, Grizzlies. Yeah. I get it, you're up super big, but damn, you didn't have to troll the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh yeah, tinkle on this to them. Unbelievable. I gotta say, honorary mention though, and this one's a personal one, to you and Marty for the botched body slam of our friend into that table. So
yeah, whatever.
Sorry, I have to do it. It's part of my job. And but with that, speaking of putting people through tables, maybe it's time to talk about what's coming up on No Final Bell this week.
Personally, Marty's been working quite a lot. We haven't posted a video for this week. I do apologize. Hopefully we can get back on and actually record the episode for next Wednesday. We're probably not going to this Wednesday. Just schedules and everything have been kind of tough. Ultimately, there was ROH final battle where 5 titles have changed hands. So eventually Marty and I are gonna watch that and talk about that probably on the podcast, on as well as Dynamite and Rampage. So
yep, I guess back in the near future.
We've been a little slacking as of late, but ultimately Marty got a new job working Amazon Flex, so his availability and his schedule is not super the greatest to have to be able to do this. He doesn't have a whole lot of time, so we're going to try to get back on track, but ultimately if we can't, I might just have to do the show on my own.
Well, we'll see what happens.
What I do, but
I feel your pain. Granted, I host Out of Turn 4 on my own when we get going, so
right.
Of course, that'll be back in a couple months. But for No Final Bell, hopefully you guys will be back soon. Real quick, of course, tomorrow begins Hanukkah, and as the Adam Sandler song goes, okay, I'm not going to repeat that here. But, Happy Hanukkah to all of our Hanukkah observing friends. I also have a programming note for you before we get going. Of course, normally we are Sunday Morning Tinkle. However, next week, due to the Christmas holiday, Jason said his schedule's picking up. Marty's schedule picked up. I know my schedule gets a little bit wacky at the end of the week because of the holiday, of course. So, and also we want to enjoy Christmas with our families. So,
Right.
we're going to try to tape midweek, and then we're going to have it up on Saturday. Now, again, the reason why, we're just trying to spend time with our families, get that last bit of Christmas shopping done, you know. And, of course, we know you guys want to spend time with your family, and you guys probably won't be up at 9 a.m. watching our show. Because you'll be unwrapping gifts under the tree. Probably like me, or a few mimosas in. But nonetheless,
Go around with some morning mimosas on Christmas morning.
hey, exactly. Maybe a couple screwdrivers too, but hey, we'll see where the morning takes us. But
If anybody doesn't know what a screwdriver is, it's basically vodka and orange juice.
yes. So we will be on Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So as we were for the picks, we'll have our picks on Saturday. We'll have all the news. Then going forward, because there's going to be a lot of Saturday games, basically anytime the NFL does Saturday games, we'll have our picks on Saturday, the show on Sunday. So for the audio listeners, just tune in to YouTube on Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll have our picks every Saturday going forward until the games stop playing on Saturday. Then, like I said, just next week is the big change because of Christmas Day falling on a Sunday. We will be back to Sunday for New Year's Day, though. So, just this Saturday, be sure to tune in. It'll be Saturday Morning Tinkle as opposed to Sunday Morning Tinkle, but we hope we'll see you then. Until Saturday, goodbye, everyone.